Greetings. It's Dr. John Taylor Kent. Thank you for joining me once again. I appreciate that tremendously. If you want to save America, if you want to preserve the ability of the world, of the earth, to support life, go ahead and hit that like button. What I want to talk about are the suicides of our veterans. We lose 22 of those men every day. Okay, there's probably some women among them, but for the most part, it's men. We're just hearing 22 veterans every single day. Now, I studied suicidology quite a bit, and I've got the book on the shelf somewhere, probably storage. Strassel and Childs, I think it was 1999. And I had really good supervision, especially with Dr. Louis Massour. He actually helped me to understand it quite a bit. I've been very fortunate. I haven't had anybody suicide on me. I've interfered with several clients' suicides. I was effective at that, but I feel like I got out of the line of fire, out of the way just in time. Because at the time I was finishing up practicing in psychology, I didn't know it was the end of my practice. I didn't know I was facing a couple of strokes that were going to take me out. I knew I was facing horrible people in the Arizona Department of Corrections and my own board of psychologist examiners. I knew, they were against anybody who had real, honest, conservative values or roots. Come on, little girl, lay down. No. Got to put her head in my lap. No, nuzzle my hand. No, I'm not going to pet you. Lay down. No, I let you out of the cage. She's been stealing food off the counters, knocking stuff off the counters. Got to keep her down. Why are we losing 22 of our boys each day? 22 of our veterans. 22 of our people that have gone to war defending our nation. I'm going to hazard a guess. I'm going to take a real wild guess, and you might not like this. But I also want to tell you that there's another group that commits suicide at a very high rate. And the only reason you're not hearing about them and you're not aware of them is because 22 vets is the higher number. We were losing, towards the end of the time I was practicing as a psychologist, we were losing so many college students, females, committing suicide, that they were trying to hire people in Tempe at the university. And I went and I looked into it because I knew I needed a job. So I figured I better at least see what's available in the marketplace. It wasn't a good job. And I went and I hung out on the campus a little bit at the coffee houses and watched the students. And I realized that things had changed so much that the co-eds weren't getting the attention from the boys that they were used to getting. And I was watching these beautiful, beautiful women walking down the street, keeping company with other beautiful women, and talking to each other. And I was watching the boys their age, these young men, walking down the street, ignoring the girls. The girls could not get their attention no matter what. They just weren't getting any attention. And I'm thinking, man, this is pretty strange. I mean, if I was college age, if I was these young men walking the streets, I mean, they are so beautiful. How can you ignore them? And they're in college, so they tend to be on the intelligent side. Seems like a good catch. Brains and beauty, And then I found out the methodology, the mode chosen for suicide. Among females, it used to be an overdose, something that wasn't very painful, wasn't violent, generally speaking, not very messy. And then I found out they were turning to firearms. Okay, that's messy. That's violent. That's definitely making a statement. And worse than that, they were actually hanging themselves, which is a really serious form of suicide. What happened to our vets so universally that they come back and they kill themselves at the rate of 22 every day? What did they see? What were they required to do? What were they ordered to do? What did they know that we did not know? What was so horrific that they couldn't live with it? Basically, I think they discovered the truth about our nation, that we aren't the good guys. And we haven't been the good guys for a long time. During the last century, we were changed. And while we used to be good before the world wars, those changed us. And we've become quite bad. And right now, I would have to say, the problem that the United States of America has is it's sort of schizophrenic. And that's using the term in a very trivial way. Schizophrenia is from the term meaning split diaphragm. It's not very well defined. It's not well understood. I got a lot of success treating schizophrenics. I did that because I read a book by a schizophrenic, and he gave me new ways to think about it. And so I thought about those the way he suggested, which is think of them as personality disorders superimposed, layered upon one another to the point of utter and sheer confusion. And it was when I started looking at it as that I started to tease off personality disorders that the individual in front of me had and addressing those, working on those, getting a little bit of success, giving the client some success. And things would usually unravel and the quality of life would improve quite a bit. And we could get them stabilized on their medicines. Because once you start on the medicines, there's really no backing off from them for a lot of people. We've got one medicine that I had experience with clinically that's so bad that if you take a person off of it, they will become violent and assaultive. I mean, it's automatic. It doesn't matter if it's a male or a female. They will assault other people if they're not on that medicine. It actually does some sort of straitjacketing to them that provides for the safety of others. I had one client, the pharmacist screwed up on his medicines not once, but twice, and he got really pretty confrontive and scary when he was given the wrong medicines. The staff turned to me, and we sorted that out in short order, and we got him on the right medicines because his case managers were quite good, and they discovered the error. They were the ones that really fixed it, in my opinion. I was just there making sure, being a witness to it, making sure it happened, and motivating that client and the case manager, rewarding the case manager, acknowledging the success that was hers. I mean, that was a wonderful thing. Unfortunately, they did it again. Both medicines began with the letter P. Or was it S? It was S. I remember the bad medicine. I'm not going to mention it here. I saw that in the Department of Corrections as well. An inmate comes to my office and says, "Man, you got to put me on watch." And I'm like, nobody asked to be put on a watch. So I paid attention to this young fellow. And he told me, he says, I was on this medicine and I only had two assaults across 14 years, something like that. He said, but they tell me that I can't have this good medicine anymore, that I have to try the medicine that's on the formulary, the cheap-ass medicine. My hearing aids just went out of phase. I hope you're picking this up. All right, coming back in. Bluetooth, advanced technologies, not so advanced. Anyway, he had been down for 2 years and they wouldn't give him the right medicine. And they told him that he had to have clinical failures with these other medicines before they give him the expensive, good medicine. And he told me he had 14 assaults in 2 years. And he was afraid he was going to assault one of the officers. So I put him on watch. I took him at his word. He knew himself better than anybody else did. I mean, that was bare bones honesty. And of course, the Captain Teddy Bear, I called him, he got in my face, went toe to toe on me. Why did you put that guy on watch? You realize I took a man off my crew because I have to send a man in there to watch over him? And I stepped up to him. Can't believe I did it now that I look back at it. He was a big, gruff guy. And I told him, Captain, I put him on watch because he told me he was about to assault one of your officers. And I went into detail. I shouldn't have done that, perhaps. But I wanted the captain to realize that the reason for the judgment call was the safety of his officers, at which point the captain appreciated that and understood it. And the fact was that we couldn't give him the right medicine because the psychologist in charge downtown was trying to save money. You see, the people downtown had hired me, and I went to work because I could see the need to come up with a good program, to come up with better diagnoses, and that way get the better medicines to target the real issues much more closely. And we were releasing inmates with the wrong diagnoses on the wrong medications, and they were dangerous to society at large. But good old liberals don't give a shit about that stuff. As long as people are dependent upon them, they're happy. And the mental health staff was mentally ill, a bunch of libtards. And I actually just started to try to run my program, and the master's level people underneath me didn't understand it. And yet it was going to be my ass, my license on the line, should anything go wrong. I mean, one time I came in and there was 2 of these folding tables, you know, the type that 3 people can sit at, 3 big adults can sit at one side comfortably. You know, they unfold these things, put them up. Typically they're wood grain tops, faux wood grain. And we had 2 tables that had so many packets of medications placed upon top of them, piled up, that the medicines were falling off on the floor. And those were the return medications from when security went through the tents on North Yard 2. I think we only had 1,200 men, 1,200 inmates on that yard. Maybe it was bigger, probably was, but still, it was a huge amount of medicines returned because the mental health people weren't doing their jobs because they're a bunch of liberals and they didn't want to charge people for their health needs requests. They didn't want to treat them. They didn't want to serve them. They wanted to sit on their asses and get their retirements and punch out for each other to pad the times and commit fraud against the state of Arizona. Anyway, I think what happened in the Gulf Wars in particular is that our troops, our boys, a lot of them who volunteered to go in the service, were lied to, just like you and I are lied to. We're not told the truth. Especially in Ukraine, we're not told the truth. In Iraq, we weren't told the truth to the point where we murdered Saddam Hussein. And we murdered a million or more than a million Iraqis, including a whole bunch of children. And I believe that our warriors, knowing that truth, couldn't live with it and come back. And they took their lives. They continue to take their lives as a result of that. They know that we are the beast system spoken of in the Bible. You see, America is schizophrenic. We started off good. We knew who we were. The Bible was our primer. We all learned how to read using the Bible. But they took that away from us. They talked us into turning our backs on God. We stopped being good. And as Alec de Tocqueville said, the reason America is great is because America is good. And he said quite accurately, America will stop being great when America stops being good. So I ask you, How long do you want to continue on in this charade? How long do you want to be lied to? How long do you want to buy into the stupid ass lies? Oh, my own family's guilty of it. You haven't had your vaccination. I understand. Yeah. How's that going for you, brother? You had a pulmonary embolism, a blood clot, and you're going to listen to the doctors tell you it was because of old age. I don't remember people getting blood clots as part of old age. It's not a regular part of getting older. They lied to you. So our boys come back knowing the truth about our nation, knowing that we aren't so great, watching the bullshit their fellow troops, their fellow soldiers pull on the local population, for one, leaving a lot of fatherless children behind for another. That's what the Haitians are complaining about as we invade them once again, because we leave behind them children of mixed race which are not accepted by the others there. That's just the natural order of things. Don't tell me we have to force them to believe like we do. We have to force them to live like we do. We have to force our ways upon them. But that's exactly what we're doing. We should withdraw from Haiti. At least the Russians and the Chinese, the Chicoms, are acting in a humanitarian fashion. But we're getting ready to go in with the military. Real foolish. I mean, I wouldn't mind the military going in to provide real humanitarian assistance, medical assistance. How about engineering assistance? How about sanitation assistance? How about assuring that they have clean water and the garbage just gets hauled out so they don't have as much disease? I mean, that would be a gift to give those people. Look at what the Clintons did. They made all that money there off the Haitians. You all, entered in those numbers on your cell phones and swallowed up, and oh yeah, you were going to be good. You sent $10, $20 off to the Clinton Foundation. And where did that money go to? And what did the Clintons do? Look, we've all been had. We're being ruled through lies and deception. The enemy wages war by deception. That's even their motto. But you're dumb enough not to wake up and realize they're telling you what they're doing. They tell us what they're going to do in advance. My boss told me something that was kind of hard to stomach. It was kind of hard to fathom. Yet he had the experience that I didn't have. And I'm going to use his terms because they're his terms, and I can't really get any more specific than this. But it was his opinion that most people kill themselves from a position of assholishness. You heard me right, assholishness. Basically, it was, I'm going to get even with you, you son of a bitch. I'll whack myself and then you'll feel sorry. And it's true that most suicides are committed as an act of manipulation to make the other son of a bitch suffer. That's how they commit most of it. That's how they actually are able to pull it off. So it's an act of loathing, hating somebody else, and taking yourself out, sacrificing yourself out to make the other son of a bitch suffer. Doesn't work very good. I'm sure General Patton would never approve that. When we were healthy, we were suiciding at a rate roughly double the rate at which we were homiciding. So for decades, when we had a stable population, before the Democrats decided to invade the country with a lot of incompatible types that didn't have a hope of making it here, didn't have a hope of being accepted, didn't have a hope of really having good lives here, to be honest with you. Our rate of suicide was 20,000 a year, roughly. The rate of homicide was approximately 10,000 a year. So we killed ourselves twice as often as we killed the other son of a bitch. Those were in the good times. Now we are in the bad times, and since the year 2000, everything has changed. I can't keep up with it. I've looked at the stats, and they have gone up phenomenally high. What we also know, and this is just kind of an old axiom, an old adage at this point, it may not hold true anymore. What we know from Strassel and Childs is that the rate of suicide is consistent across the entire planet. In other words, humans around the planet commit suicide at the same rate. But it shifts. So in other words, one country at one point has more suicides than another country. And that's as a result, I think, of the stressors that we place upon each other with these international squabbles that we have with the banksters who play with the rest of us, do to us. And, of course, need I remind you, Americans, that you have been targeted approximately 10 years ago. Who blew the whistle on it? Alex Jones. Guy's a butthole. I don't like him all that much. But he's right on some things, and he was right. At Bilderberg, they said they were going to destroy America. And the people cheered. Let's give the Americans what they've got coming. Let's wall them off. Let's not let them out so they can commit their mischief again. Now, certainly that's not the American people at large. It's a small minority that you allow to rule over you. You allow to rule us. And they're doing the ugly stuff. They've got quite a bunch of machinery up there. I don't care much for Trump because he was pushing for the police state as well. We need to return to self-rule. We need to get control over this government again. We need to stop projecting power and might where it doesn't belong. We started this stuff in the Ukraine. We aren't defending the Ukrainians. We're using that as an excuse to go in there. We've been in there for a decade, more than a decade at this point. These wars are planned well in advance. Things are set in motion well in advance. If you ever got to debrief Soros and got the truth out of him, you'd find out that he has a good idea of when these things are planned, because he's in there. He considers himself God because he acts like a god. He makes decisions as to what happens in certain countries. And so America has been targeted. And so why you think we're going to go after the Russians, we're going to go after Russia to defend the Ukraine, they are getting you targeted by the Russians. And they're forcing this thing. And I tried to warn you on Facebook, but Fascist Book says it violated community standards. I wasn't bullying anybody. I was warning you. It's in the Bible very clearly. In the book of Zechariah and throughout the Bible, hellfire and brimstone is in there. It happened on Sodom and Gomorrah. And of course, the United States today is like Sodom 2.0. And if you read some of the books that have been removed from the Bible, it refers to a nuclear war as well. It refers to the character of Sodom in detail. In the year 1933, on the month of July, the day before the 4th of July, on July 3rd, an exhibition was put upon, attended to by 150,000 people, in which there was a sacrifice, a child sacrifice, to the god Moloch, also known as Baal, B-A-A-L. It's in the Old Testament. And some of the kings of Israel actually passed their babies, their children, through the fire, meaning they sacrificed their children. And they have a mock ceremony. At least that's what they tell us now. It was a mock ceremony. And it was so popular, it went over so well, that a couple of days later, on Thursday, And that was Monday, July 3rd, 1933. Go look it up. It was in Soldiers Field, Chicago. And on Thursday, they redid the whole darn thing again, attended this time by merely 55,000 people. And I wanted to know why they did this. It was called The Romance of a People. What a title to give to human sacrifice to this god, to Baal, to Molech. And by the way, the symbol for Baal, for Molech, is the symbol that's on the Ukrainian flag today. It's on the uniform patches of the Ukrainian military, their navy. It turns out that the Khazarians, ancient Khazaria, which was eliminated about 1100 AD, when it was run off by the good Russians, the beautiful Russians, the Russians, because they were tired of the warlike nature of that horrible, horrible society that was sociopathic, a sociopathic culture. Millions of sociopaths. They loved war. And they also liked to poison people. They became so good at it that they developed our medical profession for us, because they gave us the poisons whereby we treat people today. Yes, the medical model is built upon the principles of poisoning, toxicity, and disabling. It's not a holistic model. It's not superior medical care. Medical care it is, but it's inferior. Turns out the same symbol that was the symbol on the banner that the Khazarians fought under was the symbol for Molech and Baal. Yeah, that's right. And so it's all there for you to figure out. It's there for you to sort out if you bother to read the Bible, if you bother to look at the symbols, if you bother to care about it. But I don't think you care anymore. All you care about is being right, which means dominating, actually, and being powerful. You're not willing to listen to the poor Haitian people. They'll tell you, we don't want you here. Are you willing to listen to them? Are you willing to hear them? Are you willing to acknowledge their right to self-determination? I think the best thing we could do for the Haitian people is pull out and stay away. And maybe do what Russia did to the Americans. They protected us. They protected us from the people in Europe who were about to invade us. The bankers were going to divide this nation. Certainly during the Civil War, I didn't realize until this year that the Russians also stepped in during our Revolutionary War and protected us against those powerful navies so we could fight this thing out and prevail. So indeed, you owe Russia your very existence. And in case you're wondering where I'm from, Alaska needs to become the peacemaker. Alaska needs to become an independent nation, free of this central communist government in the United States. You see, Putin kicked the communists pretty much out. He kicked the Bolsheviks out. He kicked the sociopaths out. We got them in America now. They run all these big tech companies. They run your media. They control everything. Biden appoints nothing but bad guys to the offices. And that's why you can't get the truth out about what's good medical care and what's good treatment. You're not allowed to discuss it. You can't debate it. And in order to keep their power structure in place, you cannot debate about the political processes. You can't call people into question about anything. Well, if you're a Democrat, you can call the Republicans into question, but it doesn't work the other way around. As far as I'm concerned, if you take the entire Democrat Party and get rid of them and force the Republicans to divide out into parties, you'd have a better chance. But I don't like the Republicans much either. They've let us down too many times. So when are we going to actually investigate the Kennedy assassination? Trump wouldn't let you do it. So whose side was Trump really on? Trump didn't require the FBI do a proper investigation in Las Vegas. Remember that mass shooting in which he decided to make bump stocks? A doggone kid's toy illegal? I think of it as a child's toy. It's not. It's a gimmick. It's not a very accurate or efficient way to use a rifle. No. He wouldn't allow you to see the Kennedy records. By law, he was supposed to release those, and he stopped it. Why? Because the CIA told him. Why? Because there were 2 CIA operations working that day in Dealey Plaza. One was a false flag to give justification to invading Cuba, and the other one was a real assassination. James Jesus Angleton. He didn't use his middle name, Jesus. People say only his detractors call him that. James Angleton. There are videos of him on YouTube. I suggest you avail yourself of those as soon as you can before those are scrubbed. You tell me whether that boy is telling you the truth or lying. You tell me whether or not he's actually sane or deeply disturbed. You tell me whether or not he took the law into his own hands and killed a sitting president because democracy was not perfect enough. And as a direct result of that assassination, Lyndon Baines Johnson became president, and he immediately gave Israel nukes. He took 1,000 pounds of fissionable refined material from the Hanford refinery alone and gave it to the Israelis. They didn't have to refine it themselves. That wasn't all he took. And a lot more stuff was given to them. We have made our bed. Are you ready to sleep in it? Go read the Bible. There's a fellow out there who did the Sniper 101 series, Rex. I think it's Rex Tibosaurus. I think he lives in the Dakotas. I don't know if it's North Dakota or South Dakota. Rex, I thought, was just into long-range shooting. Turns out he's quite a Bible scholar. He has read the Bible and he delved into a particular part which I have not delved into. But I've read the Bible enough to look at it and say, I think you are right. I think he's right. That 2,500 years ago in the Bible was written a nuclear war. The coming nuclear war. Now, can that be changed? I don't know. Can you repent? Can you change your ways? Can you realize the necessity for abiding by the 10 Commandments? If you can't do that, then I don't think there's any hope. They're pretty generic, general commandments, natural law, as a matter of fact. And if you read the Bible carefully, you'll see what the blessings are for obedience. And you will see what the curses are for disobedience. You need to read those and understand. America today is suffering all of the curses of disobedience. And those curses are terminal. There is an end to those. The nation will end. I'm not espousing it. I'm not threatening it. I'm not bullying you. I'm telling you, you have more free will and more choice than what you think. You can return to the Bible. I've got a link down below. The best English version of the Bible available today. At the best price. It's down below. I'm not accepting donations. I don't want your gifts. I would like the opportunity to work and to earn. That's what I want. It's an ancient Jewish tradition to give a man work, you know. Well, I laugh because you guys don't know what to make of me, and I know it. Towards the end of my mother's life, she finally figured some things out, but sadly she didn't live long enough for me to actually educate her to the next level. And I regret that I didn't get to fully inform her, but it took so long to break her out of the prevailing brainwashing. The problem is it's going to take you a long time to get out of your brainwashing as well. So I would suggest you shut your television sets off. I would suggest you stop going to your big box churches in the corner. I would suggest that you sit on your butt, pray for enlightenment, pray for forgiveness, pray to be shown God's will, and then pray for the ability to carry out God's will. And read the Bible. Program yourself up with good stuff. There's a lot of bad stories in there. There's a lot of family problems. There's a lot of bad examples in there, but learn from those. Apply that stuff to your own life and benefit from it. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's sometimes when theft is all right. To steal the tips from the autobiographies of great men and women, they'd be glad if you stole their ideas from them and put those to work. Why do you think they wrote those books? Why do you think we have models of excellence like that? That's another way you can work your way out of a personality disorder, is by reading autobiographies of great men and women, finding out what they did, what they came to grips with, and not just borrowing from them, but stealing from them. You can also become a member of one of the major religions. All the religions teach us how to relate to one another, basically how to get along. For the most part, that's what they tell. So they tell you how to be a good human being. What's wrong with that? So I think you can do that, but there are limitations to that. And that's why we have the Bible, because the Bible will speak directly to you if you avail yourself of it. And if you read it enough and press in, it will unlock itself to you. And there are great mysteries there. It'll tell you about the possible futures right now. It'll tell you about the remote past. And I'm talking real remote. I'm talking about previous Earth ages. It'll define for you what an Earth age is. It'll give you the timeline. It will tell you what money is. It will give you guidance on that. I know there's some things that don't appear to be relevant to us today because we don't have the context for those things. And I know there's going to be things that you think, well, I know better than that. Science knows better than that. How could that possibly be true? But you will find that there's some truth there. I remember the Navajos in particular. Pregnant women weren't to be around ducks. What could possibly go wrong with ducks? 100 years ago, that's what we were saying. That's hocus pocus. There's nothing to that. Well, we found out that birth defects could be caused by diseases carried by the doggone ducks. A woman being exposed to those during the pregnancy. There was wisdom in the elders of most traditions. The Hopi have some wisdom as well. North America's got incredible richness and traditions. If you go look at the cave art, if you go look at the chiselings on the wall, you'll see that they tried to warn us about the coming end of the Earth Age because they went through it and saw it. And so they chiseled that into rock. They left it in the rocks in South America and in North America. They let you know what they saw in the skies. They let you know about the plasma, the electrical disturbances. They let you know that they could not stay above ground for a period of time because the radiation was too intense. Now that all passes, and humanity has always survived one of these transitions. The problem is, can we survive the evil ones today? The evil one and his children run the planet, and they clearly want to genocide us. It's in stone. They put it in stone. It's in rock even. Jeez, the Georgia Guidestone said they wanted to reduce us to a 500 million people. 500 million people. And we're way over 7 billion right now. So, are you ready to give up your life for the sake of fulfilling the goals of our masters? Look, folks, if you want to harm yourself, realize that we're a suffering lot. We're designed to suffer. Just hold fast, if for no other reason, out of curiosity, to see whether or not some of the promises made to us hold true. Turn to somebody else. Get a little bit of help. Connect with somebody else. Don't harm yourself. Be satisfied with your lot in life somewhat, and be grateful for it. I mean, if you've had food to eat, be grateful for it, because the average human around the planet doesn't really have that. If you've got shelter over you, be grateful for that. I don't think that's universal either. You actually drive a car? Wow. Most people don't have cars. Be grateful for that. Be grateful for the little things. You've had a shower. You've got clean clothes. Be grateful for it. You have clean, fresh water. Be very grateful for that. That's not universal at all. You're in relative peace today. You're not ducking bullets. You're not worried about somebody ambushing you on the highway. Be grateful for that. Don't let the devils among us divide us any further. You've got to hold on to reasonable standards. And if by chance you think you want to strike out at the other son of a bitch, even as deserving as it might be, don't do it. Just withdraw from the situation. Defend your life? Certainly. God blesses self-defense. But walk off from the bad situations. Road rage. We had a little 8-year-old girl shot to death because her dumbass father cut somebody off in traffic. And then the guy he cut off followed him. Got out of the car, went over and punched the father in the face. Father gets out of the car with a knife. Man goes back to his car, gets his gun. Fires several times, discharges. We could say it's in self-defense. We could say he could have left the scene too. But I'm sure that father feels really good about himself now. His 8-year-old daughter is gone. I'll be frank. I'd like to see him spend a year in prison over that one. Made a felon over it. You cannot do those things. You got to start thinking about these things. The fellow who killed the child is being charged with first-degree murder. Man, is there something between first degree and second degree? Because I can see an element of self-defense, and I see a big element of stupidity. However, it's road rage. The adrenaline's running. People aren't thinking right. The Earth's magnetic field is diminishing as we talk. As you hear me, it's diminishing. And we're losing our stability individually as well. So, you and I need to back off from scenes. Not create scenes. Not be quite as confrontative. Let it go. Let it go, because vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. You know, if there's one verse in the Bible that I don't like, that's it. Because I really want to strike back at the other son of a bitch. But you know, because of that saying, I backed off of a confrontation the other day. And as a direct result, I had another neighbor help me when I needed it. You know, folks, we all make mistakes. Some of them we're lucky we can walk away from. Some of them we're lucky we can continue on with our lives. Some of them we just get butt hurt, get our egos wounded. You need to avoid trouble, because there's going to be more trouble. There's going to be more acting out. The Earth's magnetic field is somewhere between 80 and 85% of normal strength. It is going to fall rapidly. It is going to go, like it has in the past, down to a mere 5%. It's going to reset the magnetic poles. Everything gets reset. That's the way God designed it. It's the way Yahweh set this thing up. And remember when it says that God's time is not your time or my time? It's not our time? That's because it's on a much grander scale. Every 12,000 years, approximately 12,000, we go through these things. In the last one, the continent that suffered the most, that had the most eruptions, the most damage, the most lightning, the most storms, was North America, the New World, the wilderness that the prophet Jeremiah went to. This next time, listening to the fellow that I trust the most and admire the most for his brilliance in this young man, young father, he tells us that Europe is going to get hit hard, and Africa is going to get hard as well. And if anything, we should be racking up the fossil fuels. Alaska needs to become an independent nation, a free nation, so we can develop our own natural resources. We only need to re-drill one well up on the North Slope area. It's actually on an island off the coast. And then build the pipeline to that. And we don't have to disturb any more land up there. And you're going to have 100% full pipeline for a long time. And that will help the world to bring that energy to market. That pipeline carries 20% of our nation's needs, daily needs for oil. It gets sold on the international market. It goes to Asia, where the refineries were designed specifically to refine the crude oil from the North Slope. Let's keep that going. It will take pressure off the rest of the nations around the world. It will help bring the price of oil down. It will help take the steam out of the war machine, which the bankers have set up. In Russia, they set all of it up. It's all calculated. They have computers, they have social scientists, social psychiatrists. They've got all kinds of experiments going on as I speak to you. They know what the outcomes are of these different conditions, treatments they're going to apply to the world in different places. They know what's going to happen. So they think. But you and I can change it. How? Pray. Repent. Read the Bible. Abide by the 10 Commandments. Earn the rewards. Earn Yahweh turning back towards us. Remember that on July 3rd, 1933, the enemy held one of their horrible ceremonies on our continent in Soldiers Field in Chicago. Many of us do not think it was a mock ceremony. We think they really put the baby in the fire. Black and white video on Getty Images. It's on the internet. You may say, that's insane. Nobody would do that. Well, you got to understand that if you read the Bible explicitly, you realize they aren't people. They're actually hybrids. They're hybrids with the fallen angels, the satanic class of angels. And so they're not like you or I are. You cannot comprehend how bad they are. And they don't care. They've been through these earth ages before, and they've survived it and come out on top. That's what their plans are now. That's why they're acting on us now. They go after us, true Israelite descendants. It's a real big deception, a real big identity theft. It's a really huge psyop. And they've done a real good job of it, because most of you aren't going to wake up in time. Our boys are there in the Ukraine. I think they've been there the whole time. There's probably a whole bunch more in Poland. Washington, D.C. is crazy. It's headed by mad men, headed by mad women, too. There's some women that are head of those organizations in D.C. that have been calling out lies, calling out bad science, false judgment. They're lying and deceiving us. We have to throw their shackles off. We need to establish the Bill of Rights once again. We need our free speech rights back. We need to be able to talk to one another. We need to be able to come to some sort of understanding, if possible, if not at least enlightenment. I mean, I've got brothers who disagree with me. The United States descended from Ephraim, not Manasseh. Well, that's one disagreement I'm okay with. Oh, Noah's flood was local. It wasn't worldwide. Noah's flood was worldwide, said so in the Bible. Well, that's another one we can disagree about. That's okay. But what we cannot disagree about are the Ten Commandments and the agreement our ancestors made at Mount Sinai, which is not on the Sinai Peninsula. It is, as the Bible says, in the Arabia. It's just over the border, just inside the country a little ways. It's actually fenced off. The Saudis don't want us to have access to it. Why is that? Joseph, you think he was just a magical mystery or whatever, he didn't exist. We found his house. We had to excavate a field in Egypt, a farming field that was getting flooded regularly as part of the irrigation on the project. I think they were growing grains. I don't know what grains. But we found his house. We found his tomb. He really existed. You'll say that Sodom and Gomorrah, it's a fairy tale. There's no such thing as hellfire and brimstone. We found the tell. We excavated it quite a while ago, more than 10 years ago. We got to the level of destruction and discovered a crystal in the ruins. A crystal that is only present at nuclear blast sites, meaning that the angels of Yahweh nuked Sodom, nuked Gomorrah. And Yahweh can do it again. You need to understand that you are being set up right now so that you can be nuked. I'm not advocating it. I certainly am not threatening it. I'm not trying to bully you. I'm trying to wake you up a little bit. That's the purpose of my other channel, Awakening Israel. You need to wake up and realize that the enemy is inside the gates. Now, you may think that means he's just inside the borders. No, the gates of ancient Israel were the places where the judges sat and administered justice. The enemy is in the gates. May Yahweh bless America. May Yahweh bless our boys and our girls that are over there. May they all come home safely. Over and out.